Hey everyone, what up? Tom here, and the fact that I said Tom here, not Pop Daddy here, uh, should let you in that it's gonna be a heavy hitting video today. Um, Today is July 31st, 2023. News broke earlier today that Paul Reubens, also known as Pee-Wee Herman, has passed on after a lengthy battle with cancer. And I thought I would just get on here and talk. Um, I haven't really done one of these since I think it was Ivan Reitman passed, or Bob Saget, and it's just one of those things that you can just, if you're feeling upset, you just talk. Sometimes it's good to talk. If it's someone that had a big impact on you as a kid, it's better to talk. And I will always say that one of the worst parts of getting older is seeing those that you grew up with get older too, and start to pass on, and so forth. And I was an 80s kid, and so for someone like this is like Jim Henson type, where they were like huge in my childhood and they stayed very relevant in the entertainment industry. So I'm just gonna share some memories. When I was a kid, a movie that was on all the time in my house growing up was Back to the Beach. Not the movie that you think it was going to be, but it was Back to the Beach. And um, Pee Wee was in that movie. And I didn't really know too much about him. At least I don't think I did at that time. But just like, wacky gray suit guy dancing, stuff like that. Then, not too long later, I found out that he had a TV show. And when we started watching it, me and my little brother, it was like a crazy TV show. Like everything was wacky and silly, like a talking chair and like a pterodactyl and like a king that came in and showed old stock footage cartoons. And that was a show that was a huge part of my childhood. And like it taught us that it's okay to be silly, it's okay to be wacky. Um, that Christmas special I still watch yearly. Uh, it's crazy. And I remember as a kid, one day I remember coming home from doing something, and my dad was watching TV, and I saw Pee Wee there, and he he was watching this, and I just started watching it, and I'm like, what's going on here? On here, my dad's like, oh, he's trying to get his bike back. I'm like, really? He's got a movie about him losing a bike? I gotta watch this. And as I watched it, there's a scene where he gets taken to the hospital, and it's like a dream sequence, and he goes to the hospital, and there are doctors that are clowns. And I remember one of the doctors pulls his mask off and he starts laughing. I started screaming. I was so scared. And I can remember running upstairs, diving under my bed, and like sitting up like this. I can still remember the springs from under the mattress digging into my head. And I was like so scared, but I had to be, aware, because what if that clown, try to get me? He's not going to get me this time. So for a few decades, I I kind of didn't watch Pee Wee's Big Adventure, but then but like we had the toys and stuff, and my brother, for his fourth or fifth birthday, maybe it was even third, he had a Pee Wee cake, which I remember my cousin made from a spaceman mold, like an astronaut mold. And I remember seeing gray frosting for the first time, and I was like, "That's so crazy!" Because they did like the skin frosting was my first time seeing that too, but my mind wasn't as blown away as it was by the gray frosting. So I could just remember like him like that. I think they put a word bubble that said, "I know you are, but what am I?" And he was great with the insults. Also, you could totally see on his show and in the movies and everything. And like I said, we had the toys. I remember I had my brother had the regular Pee Wee. I had the one that came with the bike, and the legs broke off both of them. So, but I remember I had the helmet for years later. I just used it as a generic action figure accessory. and we had the Terry the Pterodactyl and Randy 2-pack. Randy always scared me as a kid, but Billy Baloney super scared me. There was a lot of nightmare fuel with Pee Wee and me. I was afraid of Zombie also, and I remember I had the characters from the three-man puppet band, and those were like great memories, and those were a big part of my childhood. Then the scandal happened, and I think there was like no explanation, but like Pee Wee wasn't on TV anymore, and we weren't allowed to watch Pee Wee anymore, and so those memories of Pee Wee just faded away. Like we got into other things like Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, so and so. Then I remember around 1998, 1999, new movie coming out, and it was like this is like a take on all those superhero movies. This one's called Mystery Men, and I saw the cast, and I recognized William H Macy from this. I didn't. I think I recognized Ben Stiller from The Cable Guy, and Kel Mitchell from all that, and Janine Garofalo from Dr. Katz, and then I see the character of the Spleen, played by Paul Reubens, also known as Pee-Wee Herman. All of a sudden, I'm like, he's back. He's doing stuff again. I didn't see Dunstan checks in, so I wasn't aware of that. But then he was back and he was doing roles again, and it always made me happy to see him working, to see him bounce back. And ironically enough, today is the 30th anniversary of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I believe was one of his first big comeback roles. And whenever I would see him in projects, I would always smile a little. Like, I'm glad to see him. And, like, little did I know that he had always been popping up at other parts of my life. He was the voice of Locke, the devil kid in The Nightmare Before Christmas. One of my favorite rides at Walt Disney World, Star Tours. He was the voice of Captain Rex, a role which he reprised on the show Rebels. And down at Disney World and Disneyland, they have a cantina, and he's the DJ, and they still use some of the voice clips from that, and that's so cool. And by the way, there would usually be pictures here, but I'm not going to throw those in. I don't feel it's that type of video. This is more of not a retrospective, but not in memoriam. Well, in memoriam, but I just feel like getting this out and getting these words out so people can hear if they want to hear. But he was always funny. He always delivered, and complicated man, complicated life. But he showed us that just because you get old does not mean you have to grow up. Thanks for the memories, Paul. Godspeed.